and in this video we are finally going to be coding some Bootstrap. So I know a lot of you guys have probably been shouting at your screen for the first 4 tutorials like, when the hell are you going to start coding, Quinton? Well, this is the video, so get ready. And in this video we're actually going to start by creating a container for our Bootstrap grid, and then we're going to start creating the grid inside of that container. So like I said, Bootstrap is made out of rows and columns, and we'll be making those rows and columns in this video. So let's start off by creating a div, and I'm going to give this div a class of container, and this could also have a class of container fluid, but I'll explain the difference a little bit later on in the tutorial. For now, let's just go ahead and use container. And inside of our container, I'm going to add a row. So this is going to be div with a class of row. And by the way, this doesn't have to be a div, okay? So let's say I wanted to have a header or a footer or any other HTML5 tag on my site. I could do that by just adding or changing this tag to a header tag. Or it doesn't have to be the container tag specifically, it could be one of the rows. But yeah, you can decide. I'll leave you up to that, right? Okay, so now I have a row. Let's go ahead and start adding some columns. And I'm going to add a column by creating another div, and I'm going to give this a class of col for column, but it's a little bit trickier than that, right? Because remember when I spoke to you about breakpoints, we actually use our columns whenever we create these different breakpoints. So for instance, if I want to create a breakpoint for a large screen, then I will say col -lg however many columns I want this div to take up on a large screen, right? So I'm going to go ahead and add a 1 over here, and this means that we're creating a column that on a large screen displays at 1 column width, okay? And yeah, so now I'm going to go ahead and add a number 1 over here. And I also want to give this a secondary class by just leaving a space and adding bg-warning, and that is going to add a background color. So Bootstrap has these background colors that we can add with this class. So bg for background and then warning for the actual color code. And Bootstrap has these 5 different color codes by default, which are warning, danger, info, success, and primary. And these are, okay, warning is like a yellow, danger is like a red, success is a green, and info is a light blue, and then by default primary is like this darkish blue. So you'll get to see all the colors now in just a second as soon as we continue or finish with making these columns. So I'm going to say copy this first column, and I'm going to paste that 3 times. So now I have 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to give each one of these a different background. So let's go, we've got warning, info, danger, and success. Okay, and the reason why I'm doing this is just so you guys can see the color difference between each column, so you know where one column starts and ends, and then where the next column starts and ends. Okay, so this is just to give you guys a visual representation of each column. And now I'm going to copy those 4 columns and paste those twice. So now I have 12 columns if I count correctly. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 22, what? Where did that come from? 11 and 12. Okay, Command S, that's going to save everything, and now we can go over to the browser and view this all. And did I give that a container of fluid? No, I didn't. I don't know if I saved that then. Maybe I spelled container wrong. Yeah, okay, I must have made a little bit of a typo somewhere along the line. Container is spelled wrong. Okay, and this is exactly what happens when you use container fluid. It makes the div take up the full browser width. But container also seems to work. Container, it gives you these spaces on the side. It's just that I made a typo because I'm an idiot. But yeah, let's move on from there. And as you can see, I now have 12 columns starting from 1 and ending at 12, and we've got our different colors over here, so you can see exactly what the width of a column is on a computer screen. Okay, and what I wanted to show you guys now was that if you change this to container fluid, then the container actually gets bigger and takes up the full width of the browser. But you kind of already saw that because I made my typo. So yeah, let's go ahead and just save that back as it was. Okay, and that should take us back to our default container. And now I want to show you guys what happens if you add more columns to our container. Because right now, or more columns to our row, because right now we have 12 columns and Bootstrap has 12 columns. So what happens if I add a 13th or a 14th column? Are the columns going to expand out of the container? Because that would be weird. Let's go ahead and test that out, right? So let me copy column 12 and paste that, and we'll change that to column 13. I'm going to go ahead and save this now, and if I hit refresh, you can see that column 13 is appearing below column 1. So what has happened here is because we used more columns than Bootstrap has available, it kind of just broke the column down to a new line and starts it over there. So in other words, it starts stacking the columns if you start using more columns than you have space for. Okay, and that is the default Bootstrap behavior. So if you're trying to use too many columns, or if your content's trying to fit over too many columns, then it kind of just breaks down and takes up a new line, or it stacks is a better word. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you about that. Let's get rid of that column now, and I'm going to hit save, and I want to show you guys the responsiveness of this setup right now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Shift or Alt Command M. It is Shift Control M on a Windows PC, and that jumps into responsive design view. And immediately you'll see that something is looking pretty weird right now, because over here we had all of our columns next to each other, but over here all of our columns are stacking and displaying one below the other, and that is happening all the way up to 1,200 pixels. Okay, and the reason for that is at 1,200 pixels, that is our large breakpoint. So anything bigger than 1,200 pixels is considered a large screen. 1,200 pixels in width, right? Then if I scale this down to anything below 1,200 pixels, that is considered a medium width screen. So we'd need a medium width breakpoint over here, or we'd need something smaller than a medium width breakpoint. So what I'm going to do is hit Alt Command F, and I'm going to change my large breakpoint to a small breakpoint, and we're going to have the small breakpoint appear at 4 columns. And in fact, I don't want to change them. I'm just going to have a large breakpoint, and I'm going to have an extra small breakpoint. So let's go ahead and replace all and hit save now. Okay, and basically when I click refresh now, nothing should happen on a large screen. So we still have this rule applying, this breakpoint for our large screen applying, which is if it's a large screen, we want it to take up one column. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit, jump into responsive design view. Okay, and let's start off at a phone screen. So this is pretty much what our website would look like on a phone, where we now have each column or each one of these divs is taking up 4 columns, and that is an extra small device. That is our phone. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, so that's why we actually have 3 different columns appearing. Okay, and then the rest of them are stacked underneath at 3 columns each. So yeah, that is our extra small view. But now let me scroll or scale up to a small view, which is, this is like an iPad width, by the way, at 768. Okay, so anything below that is a iPad width, and as you can see, we're still using the extra small rule, which I applied over here. So this extra small breakpoint is applying even to the small screen. And again, if I scale that up a bit more, this is a medium-sized screen, and we still have our extra small breakpoint rule applying, even though this is a medium-sized screen. So you're probably wondering, well, what the heck? If we have a medium-sized screen, why is it using the extra small rule? And the same thing for the small screen. If we have a small screen, why is it using the extra small breakpoint rule? And the reason for that is because Bootstrap works from the smallest screen up. Okay, so in other words, if we set a breakpoint for an extra small screen, which is what I did now, and then we leave out breakpoints for the small and the medium, and even if we did that for the large, then Bootstrap would use the smallest breakpoint first, right? So in order to change that, we'd obviously have to add more breakpoints. So I could go ahead and add a breakpoint for a medium-sized screen and have that at like 2 columns or something, and then our medium screen would display with our medium breakpoint rule. But since I left those out, that's why we had the extra small rule applying to everything until we got to the large screen, because like I said, Bootstrap uses the smallest breakpoint rule first, and that is because Bootstrap follows this mobile first design rule, right? So you design for a phone first because everyone uses phones, most people use phones, and then let your website scale up to a computer and still look good. You've got the option of doing that with all of our breakpoints.